Hello and welcome to India Business Hour. I'm Parikshit Luthra. Here are the headlines we are tracking this evening.
I think there's no question the elections are having an impact because people do look at the elections very carefully. Everyone is involved emotionally in one degree or another, and they tend to react emotionally in the market itself.
Elections are causing a bout of volatility in the stock market, says veteran investor Mark Mobius, adds that India must focus on simplification and unification of investment rules. Sensex and Nifty end with marginal losses after a range-bound session. India's merchandise trade deficit widens to 19 billion in April despite a marginal rise in exports. Value of gold imports treble in April compared to the same period last year. Telecom tariffs in India are absurdly low, says the CEO, Bharti Airtel, Gopal Vittal, calling for a substantial repair. Welcomes the recent fundraise by Vodafone Idea, says India will benefit from a market with a three-strong private player market. Life Insurance Corporation of India gets 3 more years to ensure 10% of its shares are owned by the public currently. The public shareholding stands at 3.5% and LIC has time till May 2027 to divest another 6.5% stake. India presents a multi-decadal growth opportunity for D-Mart, says Neville Narona, the CEO of Avenue Supermarts. The parent company of the hypermarket chain plans to add more stores as soon as possible. Strong retail demand for Virat Kohli-backed Go-Digit IPO as it opens for subscription. Food delivery company Swiggy is also set to hit Dalal Street. A confidential filing is already on SEBI's table. Promoters of pharma major Cipla sell over 2.5% stake in block deals, bringing promoter group's stake in the company down to 31.6%. Company says promoters sold the stake to create liquidity for specific needs, including philanthropy. Israel intensifies military operation at a refugee camp in North Gaza and the city of Rafah. Over 80 Palestinians have been killed in the last 24 hours. Nearly 500,000 people have fled Rafah since Israel stepped up its offensive last week. After securing a record 5th term in Russia, Vladimir Putin will travel to China tomorrow for a summit with Xi Jinping. The announcement comes after US hiked tariffs on Chinese goods worth $18 billion. 2 days after a billboard collapse killed 14 people in Mumbai, the owner of the advertising hoarding is still absconding. Civic authorities and railways continue to blame each other over granting permission for the illegal structure. Prime Minister Modi arrives in Mumbai for a campaign stop. He will hold a roadshow in Ghatkopar later this evening. Mumbai votes on the 20th of this month. After 7 months of jail, Supreme Court orders the release of NewsClick founder and editor Prabir Purkayastha, arrested in a UAPA case. The court says his arrest was invalid and due procedure was not followed. Google makes a slew of new launches at the developers conference, shows off new upgrades to its Gemini AI model. Google is also redesigning search with artificial intelligence. Straight to the day's market action. Sensex and Nifty ended the day with marginal losses after a range-bound session. Bank stocks were among the key laggards in trade. On the other hand, mid-caps outperformed with the index gaining 1%. The big newsmaker tonight, market veteran Mark Mobius says election uncertainty is causing the decline in the Indian stock markets. Speaking to me earlier today, Mobius said India must focus on simplification and unification of investment rules. Here's a slice of that conversation.
I think there's no question the elections are having an impact because people do look at the elections very carefully. Everyone is involved emotionally in one degree or another, and they tend to react emotionally in the market itself. So, yes, I would say that for India now, probably the Indian elections are having a big impact on the emotion of the market. I think if they do that, the market will probably do well, probably move up, barring any other factor coming in. But I would say it would be good news for the market. And more importantly, it would be good for the economy, because then the policy objectives of growth and the adoption of technology will be very important. The paperwork and the approvals necessary to make investments into India have to be simplified and lightened so that companies can bring in capital with the guarantee that they'd be able to bring it out again in the future. That's very important. So agreements and terms and conditions have to be simplified in that respect.
All right, that was Mark Mobius, and you can catch that full interview with the legendary investor at 9:30 p.m. This is on his new book called The Book of Wealth. And there are a lot of tips there for young investors. Moving on, U.S. consumer prices rose less than expected in April, suggesting that inflation resumed its downward trend at the start of the second quarter. The consumer price index rose 0.3% last month after advancing 0.4% in March and February. In the 12 months through April, CPI rose 3.4% in line with expectations after climbing 3.5% in March. On the other hand, monthly retail sales were unexpectedly flat. This as higher gasoline prices pulled spending away from other goods, indicating that consumer spending was losing momentum. India's weight in the MSCI index has increased further to nearly 19%. This after 13 stocks were added to the MSCI Global Standard Index, while 3 stocks were removed during the review this month. Among notable changes, Paytm parent company 197 Communications, Indraprastha Gas have been removed, while Indus Towers, PB Fintech, Phoenix Mills have made an entry. As per IIFL research, the move will lead to cumulative inflows of about $2 billion. LIC's share surged after market regulator SEBI granted it a 3-year extension to ensure that more than 10% of its shares are owned by the public. The state-owned life insurer said it now has until the 16th of May in 2027 to achieve this target. Currently, public shareholding stands at 3.5%, which means that LIC has to divest 6.5% stake in these 3 years. Remember, the insurer has received a one-time exemption to achieve 25% public shareholding within 10 years of listing. Shares of Cipla soared in trade after 2 crore shares worth 2.5% stake changed hands in 3 block deals. The company has confirmed that its promoters, the Hamid family, sold 2.5% stake in the pharma giant. They added that promoters sold the stake to create liquidity for specific needs, including philanthropy. Shares of Bharti Airtel surged in trade after its management called for an industry-wide tariff repair with the participation of telecom operators in investor call. The management said that India's tariffs are absurdly low in comparison to other markets globally. Rima Tendulkar joins us now with the details. Rima, take us through the management's commentary.
Bharti Airtel investor call, firmly reiterating that tariff repair is needed. He's not saying by how much or when it will take place, but he reiterates that tariffs in India are at an absurdly low level. At these levels of tariff, they're hardly making any return on capital, just about 10%, and tariffs need to go up. Very clear that, the tariffs need to go up. The other important takeaway is that FY24 was peak capex for them, and from here on, capex will come down, which means the amount of cash that the company generates will go up, which is also positive. So as one of the analysts was earlier pointing out, that in FY25, there are 2 potential big triggers for the company. One, if a tariff hike takes place, it largely flows through directly into the EBITDA. So EBITDA goes up. Secondly, because capex spend will come down. The company has largely finished its pan-India 5G capex. So the amount that it spends on capex comes down. Again, that's positive for the free cash flow and EBITDA. And the third one will be on AGR and the judgment that's awaited there.
Shares of TBO Tech made a stellar debut on the bourses at a premium of 55% over the issue price of 920 rupees. The company received a strong response from qualified institutional buyers, subscribing 125 times. Retail investors also showed healthy response, subscribing nearly 26 times. Aadhar Housing Finance had a muted Dalal Street debut with its shares listing on the markets at its issue price of 315 rupees. The stock closed with gains of 4% at the end of trade. The listing price was below analysts' expectation as well. Its grey market premium, remember, the issue saw a solid bidding and was subscribed 26 times over. Food and grocery delivery app Swiggy has filed for its initial public offering via the confidential route with market regulator Norwest Venture. One of Swiggy's investors told CNBC TV18 that the company filed its papers more than 2 weeks ago. The Bengaluru-based startup is looking to raise more than 10,000 crore rupees from the public issue. Out of this, 3,750 crore rupees will be fresh issue, while the remaining 6,664 crore rupees worth stake will be sold by existing investors. And sticking with companies looking to go public, the initial public offering of Virat Kohli-backed Go Digit General Insurance has been subscribed 36% on the first day. The quota for retail individual investors received 1.4 times subscription, while non-institutional investors category got subscribed 34%. The portion for qualified institutional buyers is yet to be booked. India's merchandise trade deficits had widened to $19 billion in April despite a rise in exports. This as the value of gold imports tripled in April compared to the same period last year. Overall trade deficit, which includes the import and export of services, stood at $6.5 billion compared to $2.6 billion in April last year. CNBC TV 18's Abhimanyu Sharma is here for the latest.
The overall exports in FY 23-24 have been recorded at $778 billion, which is the highest ever number. Speaking of April 2024, the exports have been noted higher by 6.88% year-on-year, which includes a rise in merchandise exports. A 25.8% growth has been noted in exports of electronics, and a 16.75% rise has been noted in the export of chemicals. Speaking of India's overall trade deficit, it has risen from $2.62 billion in April 2023 to $6.51 billion in April 2024. The value of gold imports has also risen year-on-year between April 2023 and April 2024, which has been attributed to several factors. The ministry has indicated that a detailed analysis will have to be undertaken over which institutions, individuals, as well as traders had possibly purchased gold, based on which any conclusion or inference can be reached. Now, speaking of commodity prices, the commodity price fall was quite visible. As far as the Commerce Ministry is concerned, they had indicated that also issues have been noted in international transportation due to geopolitical situations. However, a good start has been noted for India in the financial year as per the ministry. They've also indicated that the WTO prediction is also better for 2024.
At least one person has died after a lift collapsed at a copper mine in Rajasthan. The incident left 14 people trapped under the debris. The vertical shaft carrying the Hindustan Copper officials collapsed on Tuesday night after one of its ropes snapped. 14 workers have been rescued so far. DLF Joint Managing Director and Chief Business Officer Akash Ohri has said that they have got their hands full for the next 3 years. Speaking about the successful launch of their project, Privana, Ohri said that they have a good launch pipeline for this fiscal year.
So Privana, the total size, the launch size has been about 5,590 crores, and all of it that you will see in Q1. As you know, it's almost about a 2.8 million plus size. All the other launches as we go along, there is Goa, there is Mumbai, there is Lux 5, some floors, some a product in Tri-City. So we've got a good launch pipeline for 25.
In international news, Israel continues to bombard Gaza as it intensifies its offensive in Rafah. Global aid agencies have warned that an escalation in the region may further deteriorate humanitarian situation in the enclave. The United Nations has launched an investigation into the attack that killed one Indian staff member in Rafah. The Israeli military has said that the incident is under review and is yet to confirm whether its forces were responsible. Meanwhile, the Israel Defense Forces have claimed that they have killed over 10 Hamas members after it struck a war room inside a school operated by a UN agency in a central Gaza refugee camp. The family of Colonel Vaibhav Anil Kale, who was killed in Gaza, is still in shock with his demise. The 46-year-old officer dedicated over 2 decades to the armed forces before joining the United Nations as a security service coordinator. Just weeks before his death, he was actually killed in Gaza's Rafah region when the vehicle he was traveling in came under attack. Colonel Kale is the UN's first international casualty in the Israel-Hamas conflict.
डिफेंस जाने की इच्छा उसके दादाजी के पूर्व से ही चलता था। उनके घर में, काले के घर में सब राष्ट्रीय प्रेम वाले ही है। ऐसा लगता ही नहीं है हमको कि वैभव गया। जैसे सब न्यूज आई हम तो हड़बड़ा गए, एकदम से शॉक बैठा एकदम।
बहुत अच्छे कंपनी में बहुत अच्छा जॉब था उनको, लेकिन वो टेबल वर्क कर ही नहीं पाए, इसलिए फिर उन्होंने यूएन में ज्वाइन हो गए, वो डिफेंस सिक्योरिटी एंड सेफ्टी डिपार्टमेंट में। लेकिन उनका पहला ही पोस्टिंग गाजा में आ गया, और गाजा में आने के बाद हालांकि मैं बता सकता हूँ मेरी जब गाजा निकल रहे थे, मैंने उनको व्हाट्सएप पे मैसेज किया था और उसमें आखिरी में लिखा था कि कम विथ पीस इट एट गाजा। तो वो शायद गाजा में आजकल में पीस आ जाएगा, लेकिन भैया नहीं आए। मेरा आखिरी मैसेज वही था उनसे।
Our thoughts and prayers with the family of Colonel Vaibhav Kale killed in Gaza. Moving on, Russian President Vladimir Putin is set to meet Chinese President Xi Jinping later this week in China. Putin was invited by Xi to make a two-day state visit to Beijing. In an interview to Chinese state media, Putin said that economic ties between Russia and China have seen rapid growth in the midst of external challenges. Putin added that he supported China's peace proposal on the Ukraine war and said that Russia is open to dialogue for resolving the conflict. Protests erupted in Georgia after the country's parliament passed the Foreign Agents Bill, which mandates organizations register as agents of foreign influence if they receive more than 20% of their funding from abroad. The United States has warned it will review relations with Georgia if the legislation failed to meet European Union standards. The bill will now go to President Salome Zourabi, who has said she will veto it. However, her decision can be overridden by another vote in Parliament controlled by the ruling party and its allies. Trouble mounting for Indian spice brands MDH and Everest. New Zealand's food safety regulator is investigating the possible contamination in their spices following scrutiny in several other nations. The United States and Australia is also looking into the contamination. Last month, Hong Kong suspended sales of 4 spice blends of MDH and Everest, citing the presence of cancer-causing pesticide ethylene oxide. Meanwhile, Singapore offered the recall of Everest's fish curry masala. Over 86% of senior business executives have deployed artificial intelligence to boost their existing revenue streams, and nearly 70% of business executives have used AI for innovation and revenue improvement. As per a report by TCS, more than 80% of business leaders also want a more global set of regulations for AI in a bid to balance the security risks and privacy. Infosys founder Narayan Murthy has said that India needs to ensure that there is absolutely no friction in converting entrepreneurial ideas into marketable products. Speaking to my colleague Ritu Singh, he added that India is on the right path towards boosting innovation and entrepreneurship.
What do you make of some of the work being done by the young entrepreneurs in the country, whether that is Krutrim coming out from Ola, whether that is Sesame yesterday coming out from Setu and Sarvam? How soon before we reach that level where globally companies would want to adopt our models?
Well, I think, these are all wonderful entrepreneurs that deserve our respect and our admiration. What we need to do is to ensure that there is absolutely no friction to these extraordinary people in converting their ideas into marketable products. That's the task of both the state governments and the central government. Second, our institutes of higher learning will have to generate even a large number of youngsters who will follow in the footsteps of these people. Third, we have to become even more open-minded to have conversations, to have interaction with those countries that have performed better than us. I think if we did some of these things, I have no doubt at all that India will definitely have its day in the sun.
And coming up on India Business Hour, Delhi will go to polls on the 25th of May as part of the 6th phase of elections. Ahead of elections, the residents in villages around the national capital are hoping the next government will solve some long-standing problems of water and security. And you can also catch all CNBC TV 18's news and updates on Facebook, X, Threads, Instagram and JioCinema. Two days after a billboard collapse killed 14 people in Mumbai's Ghatkopar, the owner of the advertising hoarding is still absconding. Mumbai police says his last traced location was Lonavala near Pune, but he wasn't found there either when the police team reached the location. Meanwhile, civic authorities and railways continue to blame each other over granting permission for for the illegal structure. The municipal body has ordered removal of all illegal billboards in the region where the incident took place. Prime Minister Modi held a roadshow in Mumbai's Ghatkopar. He was campaigning in Maharashtra today and made a stop in the financial capital, which votes on the 20th of this month. The Prime Minister is flanked by Maharashtra Chief Minister Eknath Shinde and Deputy Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis. Mumbai Police has issued traffic restrictions and the metro services in the line between Ghatkopar and Andheri have been disrupted as well. Congress leader Rahul Gandhi addressed a huge rally in the Bolangir district in Odisha. During his speech, Rahul Gandhi promised that the Congress party will conduct a caste census across the country to have a clear picture on the population of the backward, the Dalits, the tribals and the poor, general caste and their participation in the country. He claimed that the minority have negligible participation and that they will first change, and this will be the first change that his party will bring. The national capital has a significant number of voters living in its 362 villages. Many of these are located next to bustling urban centers and have been transformed into unauthorized colonies. In our ongoing series, Election Exchange, CNBC TV 18's Abhimanyu Sharma reports that these rural and urbanized villages are hoping the next government will solve some long-standing problems from poor sanitation to security.
While all 7 Lok Sabha constituencies in Delhi have urban villages, the Northwest, West and South Delhi constituencies still have a sizable electorate in rural areas. The aspirations and demands of voters in these areas significantly differ from the urban areas they adjoin. Less than 15 kilometers from the iconic Yashobhumi Convention Centre, this is Kharkhadi Jatmal village in Delhi. Despite its proximity to the national capital, its civic infrastructure, residents say, is lacking. The most pressing problem for many is the lack of regular supply of piped water. Residents are forced to rely on tube wells to augment supply of drinking water, and some claim the poor quality of this water has resulted in serious illnesses, including cancer.
हमारे यहाँ इस जो पानी है ये, इससे कैंसर की समस्याएं बड़ी बढ़ रही है जी। मैं खुद कैंसर पेशेंट हूँ।
घर में तो दिक्कत है, पानी की समस्या तो बिल्कुल हर चीज में पानी लगता है।
Many blame urbanization for this lack of drinking water. They say the process has resulted in the drying up of over 100 lakes in the region, and for a community that is still largely agrarian, this is a death sentence. The transfer of arable land towards urban development projects is also a cause for concern, especially with many saying the benefits they had expected from the government's policies have not materialized.
जो गायें सड़कों पे दिल्ली में घूम रही है, अगर वो हमारी जमीन छोड़ दी होती वो उसमें घूमती। ये मजाक किया जा रहा है गांवों के साथ। माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी का जो आवास का जो चल रहा है और स्टेट में जो उनके मकान मिल रहे हैं वो दिल्ली के अंदर नहीं है। हाउस टैक्स वाली जो पॉलिसी लगाई है उसमें सर्कल रेट को लेके जो यूनिट प्रणाली है उसको लेके हम एक लंबी लड़ाई लड़ रहे हैं।
It's not that the centre hasn't tried to urbanize Delhi's villages. The Delhi Development Authority's land pooling policy to procure village land for development with urban infrastructure requires 70% of the land to be contiguous and without any encumbrances. However, the response from landowners has been tepid due to what they call a faulty policy.
एक्चुअल में लैंड पूलिंग की जो स्कीम है ना वो योजना ही गलत। डीडीए ये क्लियर नहीं करती कि आपको जमीन हम जब लेंगे हम आपको कहाँ देंगे, और इसी वजह से ये योजना आज तक फेल है। जब लोग मेन रोड पे अपनी जगह डीडीए को नहीं देंगे तो स्कीम चलेगी कहाँ से?
रोजगार कहाँ से होगा गाँव में जब गाँव को आप किसी भी प्लानिंग के तहत लेके नहीं आएंगे।
For many of these far-flung rural areas in the erstwhile Lok Sabha constituency of Outer Delhi, open areas and long distances are a problem, especially when it comes to security.
हमारे बच्चे के लिए सुविधा नहीं है, क्योंकि इसीलिए यातायात के साधन जरूर होने चाहिए हमारे गांव के अंदर, जो हमारे बच्चा सुरक्षित आ सके घर पे।
सीआर खड़ी होनी चाहिए हर उस पे, मोड़ पे, हर इलाके में होनी चाहिए।
Political parties are not unaware of these problems, and promises are aplenty.
मैं 12 साल डीडीए में सदस्य रहा। लैंड पूलिंग का जो पॉलिसी बनी थी वो अभी तक लागू नहीं हुआ है, और ग्राम सभा की जमीन, पूरे ग्राम सभा की जमीन जो गांव वाले के है उसके हित के लिए होना चाहिए। आज बच्चे देहात का आप जाते हैं न्यू दिल्ली में 3-3 घंटा पढ़ने के लिए जाते हैं छात्र छात्राएं, उसके लिए यहाँ कैंपस बनना चाहिए स्टेशन का।
Central government has provided thousands of the electric buses. Central government has connected Delhi with sub-cities and created the expressways. Bharatiya Janata Party is also committed to help out villagers to get proper compensation for their land.
Many voters in these villages hope these promises will be kept, but some are not entirely certain. A few parents who aspire for more for their children, for instance, feel the infrastructure available leaves a lot to be desired.
स्कूलें हैं, उनमें साइंस नहीं है। अब बच्चे कहाँ से इंजीनियर डॉक्टर बने? सांसद एक बार सिर्फ वोट मांगने आता है या एक बार धन्यवाद बस।
Electoral issues in Delhi's rural areas have evolved much beyond caste considerations and include demands for a fair land pooling policy, tax relief, planned urbanization and parity in civic infrastructure with urban areas. While there may not be a separate rural constituency in Delhi, the rural vote bank is clearly not the one to ignore for any political party. In Delhi with video journalist Saurabh Chauhan, this is Abhimanyu Sharma for CNBC TV 18.
And keep watching CNBC TV 18 for the latest election coverage. And before we wrap, as India enters the last lap of the elections, Network 18 travels to the heart of the Hindi heartland of UP with a group of business leaders, investors and diplomats to get a glimpse of democracy in full swing. Among the 14 constituencies in Uttar Pradesh, which will go to polls next week on the 20th of May, include Lucknow, Amethi, Raebareli, Jhansi, Barabanki, Faizabad. We hit the road to meet leaders like Rajnath Singh, Smriti Irani, Ashok Gehlot and others. With that, it's a wrap on this edition of India Business Hour. Thank you for watching. The news continues on CNBC TV 18.